All right, welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right in and take what usually looks like a massive, kind of overwhelming list of biological names and turn it into what it really is, a totally intuitive evolutionary story. Because, if you've ever looked at the animal kingdom and just felt totally lost in the sheer diversity of life, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're not just memorizing a list of facts. We're going to look at biology like a series of incredible compounding tech upgrades. So, to really understand life's hierarchy, we first have to ask, how do biologists actually sort all this stuff out? I mean, how do you even begin to categorize a simple sea sponge in relation to a super complex human being? Well, the secret is that it's not just about what an animal looks like on the outside. It's actually about digging deep and looking at their underlying biological blueprint. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the rules of classification. Second, simple sponges and worms. Third, the advanced invertebrates. Fourth, the complex chordates. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate cheat sheet. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the rules of classification. Think of the level of organization literally like a hardware upgrade for living beings. We start at the absolute baseline, right? The cellular level. Here, in organisms like Porifera, individual cells are basically doing their own thing, performing all functions entirely independently. But as we upgrade, similar cells start grouping together to form the tissue level. We see this in Cnidia. The next huge leap is the organ level, where those different tissues actually combine to form specific, dedicated organs. Platyhelminthes are a prime example of this. And finally, we reach the ultimate biological hardware, the organ system level, where multiple organs are working together in perfect sync, starting from nematoda and going all the way up to us. Then there's symmetry. Imagine a jellyfish. With radial symmetry, the body can be sliced into equal halves by absolutely any plane that passes through its central axis. It's basically a perfect 360-degree design for experiencing the environment from all sides, which is great for creatures like hydras. But as organisms got more specialized for movement, we got bilateral symmetry. This is where only one single specific plane divides the body into perfectly equal left and right halves. And we can't talk about upgrades without talking about the colon, which is simply a body cavity. This is a massive developmental milestone. It's the structural difference between the solid-bodied early models and the really complex later ones. On one hand, you have acoelommates, like the flatworms of Platyhelminthes. They have absolutely zero body cavity. They're solid all the way through. But contrast that with eucoelommates, which start from Annelida onwards. They feature a true colon. This is huge because having a true cavity means internal organs finally have the space to grow, move, and function totally independently of the outer body wall. All right, moving right along to Section 2, simple sponges and worms. So the really crucial thing to know about phylum Porifera, which are basically just sponges, is that they represent the most basic biological tech out there. They operate strictly on that cellular level of organization we just talked about. They have an asymmetrical body plan, meaning there is no plane that divides them equally, and they are completely aquatic. But they do have a really cool unique trick, a distinct canal system powered by highly specialized cells called choanocytes. Classic examples like Cycon, Spongilla, and Euspongia perfectly capture this foundational tier of animal life. Taking one step up the evolutionary ladder, we hit phylum Cnidaria. This is where we introduce tissue-level organization. We also see that radial symmetry we mentioned and a diploblastic structure. That just means they develop from only two germ layers, an ectoderm and an endoderm. But the real defining upgrade is their weaponry. They possess kinetoblasts, which are these incredible stinging cells used for defense and snagging prey. The Hydra, Aurelia, and Edemusia all fall into this really fascinating category. Now, this is where you can see the evolutionary jump happening in real time. Think about the transition from flatworms, which are Platyhelminthes, to roundworms, the Astrominthes. The flatworms, like Taenia and Fasciola, introduce bilateral symmetry and a triploblastic structure, so they add a third layer, the mesoderm. But they're still totally flat, with no body cavity at all. They're acoelomate. But then you step over to the roundworms, like Ascaris, and boom! We suddenly hit the organ system level. They develop a false cavity, making them pseudocoelomate. It is a massive, massive stepping stone in biological complexity. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the advanced invertebrates. With phylum Annelida, which includes things like Pheretima, the common earthworm, and Hirudinaria, we hit a really major benchmark. We finally get the true colum. They are officially eucoelomate. But the actual game changer here is metameric segmentation. Their bodies are literally divided into distinct, repeating segments.
You add a closed circulatory system pumping blood through those defined segments, and you've suddenly got a highly efficient, super advanced invertebrate.
And then we meet the undisputed champions of survival. Arthropoda takes the crown as the absolute largest animal phylum on Earth. Seriously, they're everywhere. Why? Because they unlocked game-changing physical armor, a super tough chitinous exoskeleton, perfectly paired with highly mobile jointed appendages. From the cockroach to the honeybee to prawns, this killer combo of armor and mobility, along with an open circulatory system, literally allowed them to conquer almost every single environment on the planet.
Next up is the runner-up in diversity, Mollusca. This is the second largest phylum, characterized by wonderfully soft bodies that are usually protected by a shell-producing mantle and a really unique rasping organ called radula. Think of snails like Pila or the insanely intelligent octopus. Right behind them is Echinodermata. These are entirely marine animals that bring a totally unique, hydraulic-powered water vascular system to the ocean floor. And here's a crazy fact. The adults in this phylum, like the starfish, actually revert back to a form of radial symmetry. Evolution is wild, right?
Okay, let's look at section 4, the complex chordates.
So every single chordate out there, without exception, shares 4 distinct, non-negotiable features at some point in their development. Number 1, a notochord. That's a flexible, rod-like structure that provides support. Number 2, a dorsal hollow nerve cord. Number 3, pharyngeal gill slits. And number 4, a post-anal tail. This underlying architecture is shared across all the subgroups, from urochordata like Ascidia to cephalochordata like Branchiostoma. And here is the absolute final boss tier of upgrades, the Vertebrata classification. This is the epic story of how life adapted and conquered literally every domain. It kicks off in the water with Pisces, using gills and fins. Then Amphibia comes along, mastering both land and water habitats. After that, Reptilia fully conquers the dry land with dry skin and tough scales. Avis takes it to the skies, evolving feathers and wings. And finally, we get Mammalia, defined by mammary glands and hair, leading to incredibly complex organisms like dogs and, well, us humans. Almost done. Let's hit section 5, the ultimate cheat sheet. If you need to memorize all of this, here is an incredible mnemonic anchor for the exact sequence of the major phyla. Just remember these letters: P, C, P, A, M, E, C. Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminths, Aschelminths, Annelida, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Chordata. It is super simple but literally a lifesaver when you need to recall the precise order of evolutionary complexity.
And the trick is to link that exact sequence directly to the golden rules we just learned so you instantly associate the phylum with its defining upgrade. Porifera means choanocytes, Cnidaria means kinetoblasts. Then the cavities. Platyhelminths are acolumate. Aschelminths step up to pseudocolumate, and Annelida finally brings the true column. Moving up in size, Arthropoda is the largest phylum, with Mollusca coming in second. Echinodermata boasts that crazy water vascular system. And finally, hitting close to home, Chordata is defined by the notochord. So we've basically just mapped the upgrades from the simplest cellular sponges all the way to complex mammals with true organ systems, hair, and intelligence. We've seen exactly how these strict rules of classification help us track this, frankly, unbelievable journey. But here's something to chew on. The rules of biology and adaptation are still very much in play today, which leaves you wondering, thousands or even millions of years from now, what adaptations are yet to come? What do you think will be the defining characteristic of the next great phylum on Earth? Something to think about as you review these categories. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the structure of life around you, and I will see you in the next explainer.